UFC 314, obviously, the undisputed belt at featherweight is on the line between Volk and Diego Lopes, which is an incredible fight. And it's actually so crazy because, well, after Ilya beat Volk, I was in Mexico City when I was watching that. After Ilya beat Volk, and then obviously goes on to beat Max Holloway, you're starting to think to yourself, okay, who's he going to fight next? Is he going to get double champ status? Can he move up to lightweight? And then you end up finding out that he is moving up to lightweight, but he's not taking the featherweight belt with him. So you thought, okay, he's definitely going to go for the double champ status. He's going to fight Islam. It doesn't seem like Islam Makhachev's team are too keen on taking that fight just because Islam has already fought a lot of featherweights. And I understand that. But at the same time, that is the biggest fight in the UFC, I believe, at the moment, outside of John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. And I do believe Ilia Topuria would probably win that fight. But having said that, next we've got Volk versus Diego Lopes. The crazy thing is I met Diego Lopes at UFC 309 fight week. That was John Jones versus Stipe Miocic here in New York in November. And I remember going up to him and I asked him, Diego, who's the next fight for you? Is it going to be Volkanovski? I said that there. And then he said, well, I don't know, man. I haven't heard anything from the UFC. And now we're finally here where he is fighting for the undisputed featherweight title of the world against Volkanovski. Maybe it was me. Maybe I should get the credit for putting that matchup together a little bit. I also met Gilbert Burns. I'll put the pictures here from that day. It was one of the coolest days of my life. Watching Diego Lopes crack the pads on practicing leg kicks as well. It sounded like missiles were going off, literally. One of the coolest days of my life, especially, I think I just started this podcast as well. And I was like, I'm going to go meet some UFC fighters. And I met Michael Chandler that week. I met Corey Sandhagen in the park. I met those two. So it was incredible. But that fight obviously is going to be huge. If you had to ask me right now, before I do my episode coming out this Thursday or Friday before the fight to do my official predictions, I would say that I'm going to go with Volkanovski probably. But at the same time, you're kind of betting, you're setting yourself up for failure if you're going to put money on Volkanovski. Just from that statistic, if you're 35 years or older fighting for a championship below 170 pounds, you are like 2-40 or something crazy. I'll put the stat up on screen because I know I've butchered that. But basically Volkanovski, like statistically, is not supposed to win this fight. But stylistically, I think Volkanovski obviously has all the tools to beat Diego Lopes. Diego Lopes is a savage. Diego Lopes has power. He's improved immensely since he entered the UFC. One of the biggest badasses in the UFC, who can just absolutely put your lights out, always delivers an entertaining fight for the fans and has such a cool story. And we'll get into that more on Thursday and Friday. But right now I'm going to go with Volk just out of an emotional, sentimental bias. I don't want to see Volk lose again, especially not get KO'd after coming off those two brutal KOs to Islam Makhachev with the head kick. And also Ilia Topuria putting him out like to death. So yeah, I mean, obviously I don't want to see that happen again. As a fan of Volk, Volkanovski could retire tomorrow and be one of the greatest we've ever seen in the sport. At one point was the pound for pound number one, went up to fight Islam Makhachev when they had that 5-round war, lost and still retained his pound for pound number one status, which is one of the coolest things ever at featherweight. The run that he went on, went on a 20-fight win streak, didn't lose for 10 years before, taking that short notice fight against Islam Makhachev and taking that ill-advised fight against Ilia Topuria after that Islam Makhachev loss.